I'm now excited to transition to the next segment of our evening. To introduce our next speaker, I'm honored to bring on Coach Jesse Pruitt, current assistant men's basketball coach at Stanford University. Welcome, Coach Pruitt. Take it away.
Sam, thank you very much. It's great to see so many engaged student athletes. As Sam said, my name is Jesse Pruitt. I'm an assistant men's basketball coach at Stanford University. I have the honor of introducing Isael Silva and Stephen Curry. Isael is entering his second year with the Stanford men's basketball team. As a freshman, Isael shot 50% from the three-point line. He's also been part of several community efforts helping local families and students in his hometown of Sacramento. Stephen Curry's accolades speak for themselves. Besides being the greatest shooter in NBA history, he is the co-founder of the Stephen and Aisha Curry Eat, Learn, Play Foundation, an Academy Award-winning producer, author of a beautiful children's book titled I Have a Superpower, and most recently, a college graduate. So without further ado, Isael Silva and Stephen Curry.
Thank you, Coach Pruitt. I'll see you tomorrow at practice. Before we get into the greatest, in my opinion, player of all time, but we can argue about that later with other people. I want to thank Sam and Professor Solomon for having us. I haven't got a chance to meet Professor Solomon, in the flesh, but from what Sam tells me, she's an amazing person and has inspired him a lot. So knowing Sam and him being probably the hardest worker I've ever encountered on my basketball journey, I just know they're both amazing people. But just want to say thank you to Stephen Curry for being here. I always knew as a kid I'd meet you. I didn't know how, seeing you from afar, but I just want to thank you for inspiring me and inspiring a bunch of other, hoopers who have big dreams and have the backbone of faith. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, my man. And hello to everybody on the call.
For sure. Well, I'm sure everyone's as anxious as I am to ask these questions. So I'll start us off. In your 13 seasons in the NBA and 4 NBA championship seasons, what have you learned is the most critical trait it takes to being a good leader on a championship level team?
Well, first, I was listening to a little bit of Secretary Condoleezza Rice's remarks and whatnot. Tough act to follow, but very, very inspiring and appreciative of her perspective. And, speaking on leadership and being active and thoughtful around, where you show up, how you use your voice, how you use your platform, the conviction around what you stand behind and all those type of things. It all goes into, being a true leader and being somebody that can be counted on in the best of times and the worst of times. And, my experiences through the NBA and on and off the court in the last 13 years have taught me a lot about, what it takes to be, consistent in your effort with, not just what you say, but how you live your life, the core values that you stand for, that, we all want to get in front of a group and say, this is, 1, 2, 3, 4, the values that I stand behind, but can you really, nobody's perfect, but can you live that out on a daily basis and bring your best self that not only, tests you, but lifts others around you, in the sense of pursuing like a shared goal or mission. But also I think for me, it's just been being authentic to who I am. Like, there are plenty of ways to go about leading a group, whether it's being, vocal, demonstrative, leading by example, all the different categories, but being authentic to who you are has been something that's carried me throughout, these 13 years, because I've truly believed in running my own race and not comparing myself to, to the person to the left and to the right, understanding that I am where I am, for a purpose and for a reason, and identifying ways to relate to everybody that I know is a part of a group that's gonna, help everybody be successful and succeed. And, I've learned from some great leaders in my own right, coaches, mentors that have kind of shown me the way, and you find that voice for yourself. So, being authentic to yourself is huge. And then understanding that the seasons of life are important to kind of recognize, because every year for me has been a different challenge. Whether it was you were, trying to reach the mountaintop for the first time, whether it was you trying to maintain your team culture and your organizational culture through success and through failure, whether it was, dealing with a change in our roster and, personnel that was coming into the fray. You have to continue to analyze, your situation that you're in and be accountable to what that is and be thoughtful to what that is, because every year is different. And for me, that's been a huge part of trying to sustain this for the amount of years that we've been going. And even now thinking about, okay, we can do this again next year. So just constant evaluation, being authentic to yourself and learning from, amazing leaders and influencers around you that you connect and relate to.
No, thank you. I mean, I'd say, to share a little bit, like for me being a freshman last year, learning how to be a leader, I think it helps to have people around you who are really good at, living within themselves, but also, reaching out to other people. And I think when I see good leaders or great leaders who I like to study or watch, including yourself, it's about, remaining true to those core values. And now to go into the next question, it's kind of more about leadership in the democracy world, in the world of democracy. The NBA recently announced that they will not be holding any games on Election Day, November 8th, 2022, to encourage players and fans to go vote. Throughout your career, you have been vocal about utilizing your right to vote and stand up for voting rights, saying, quote, "I'm not just on the Golden State Warriors, but I'm on Team Democracy." What makes you so passionate about this topic?
It's just realizing that we all come from somewhere and represent a family, a community. The platform that you have, even, when I was at Davis in college, 1,800 students, a mid-major in the Southern Conference at the time, they're now in the A-10. You always knew like people could resonate with how you carry yourself, the joy that you bring to, the craft that you work at tirelessly every single day. That's an opportunity to share who you are and share what you believe in and leverage that platform for good and be able to change things and be a voice for people that can't, speak for themselves. And I didn't know it at the time when I was at Davidson, when I was 18 to 21 years old, or when I got drafted, that this would be the life and the opportunity that I had. But you never forget where you come from once, and you always know, like, basketball and the gifts that you have and the skill set that you have, you've been given for a reason. And if you can influence somebody, just one person, through that gift, then you're doing something great with your life. And as that platform has increased exponentially, I've carried that inspiration and that mission behind it. So when you talk about being active when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to human rights, and the ability to say, okay, basketball has done so much for me in terms of developing a skill set, developing a character, developing a work ethic, and provided so many amazing life experiences. Now I have the opportunity to say, okay, I can be a part of a group that's changing the narrative, what it means to be an active athlete, and encourage people to vote, to be passionate about, issues that are near and dear to them, to look out for communities that need, resources and programs to be catered to them. And that little bit of action matters. Is always a trickle down effect across the board. And so whether you realize it in the moment or not, it all matters. And so even when we look at the NBA, during the pandemic season in the bubble, we had an opportunity as a group to leverage that platform to open up arenas across the country as registration sites for voting for the 2020 election. And then you think about now, like you said, with the NBA coming to the forefront as taking a stand on saying, okay, we're not going to have games on election day. We want you to get out and vote and not have any distractions or anything in your way to say, I'm going to exercise my right to vote. That's a great kind of North Star narrative. And then you trickle down to say, okay, what is that actually going to do? What is it actually going to mean in terms of changing, communities and influencing issues that matter? So basketball is my expression of my gift, and everybody has that. And now, the NBA is kind of taking the lead from the players. And I'm happy to be a part of that group that's understanding it's not just about putting that ball in the basket. It's about what can that actually mean for the communities that we've all come from.
Right. No, that's great. And I think as you speak about like being that voice and more voices coming up in basketball, I think it might make it easier to facilitate, that the message and the messaging we want to get across to get athletes and people with platforms gets more active in that, right? Is there any role model that you've had in that department that's really just helped you fine tune your leadership?
I've had a lot throughout my years, like from Coach Bob McKillop at Davidson, in terms of shaping not just the athlete, but the human being, to Mark Jackson, my head coach with the Golden State Warriors at the time, who kind of allowed me to unlock the power of my voice, to Steve Kerr, who now has given me such a perspective on, how blessed we are as athletes to do what we do on a daily basis, but to not shy away from some of the hard conversations, from some of the issues that will have historically divided us, but hopefully will turn to kind of unite us in terms of understanding we're all going through, certain things in life. And we can kind of galvanize around just togetherness and love and a spirit of unity. I hate to name drop, but I've gotten to rub shoulders a little bit with 44th President Barack Obama, who I never thought I'd have anything in common with, but has kind of demonstrated what it means to be unashamed of who you are and what you want to speak about, and the influences that he is as a father first and foremost, and every other role that he plays in life as a philanthropist, as an activist, obviously a president. But it's special to see kind of the courage that he exudes every single day. And then also Stacey Abrams, who I've just gotten to meet over the last 2 or 3 years, hopefully the potential next governor of Georgia, but somebody who has taken her life story and translated that into a strong, or the strongest platform of, encouraging voting rights for everybody across the board, not just in her state, but across the country. So from a coaching perspective, a politician perspective, I've had a lot of amazing influences, and I'm sure that will continue, because I'm very open to, and I'm very curious about, the great leaders and great influencers that are, in our society today that we all can learn from.
Oh, that's great. I think when we talk about voting, it's something that's spread really well amongst, sports. More and more it's improving. But I think just being a good person and giving back to the community is also something that I admire about people, and that I think everyone on the call admires about you. And I was born in Berkeley. I was born in Berkeley, California. Grew up in Sacramento until I got to Stanford last year. But maybe talk a little bit more about Eat, Learn, and Play, and maybe if you could share like a powerful experience you've had while connecting with people in the Bay Area.
Yeah, me and my wife Aisha's organization, Eat, Learn, and Play, has been around since July of 2019, and 99% of our work is dedicated to Oakland and the greater Bay Area, around those three pillars of being the village for our next generation, to provide the basic resources and necessities that they need to achieve their fullest potential. Obviously eat and, healthy, nutritious meals and access to those programs, learn and helping them continue their education, and really focusing on sorry if you hear my kids in the background, early childhood literacy, and understanding that from birth to third grade, to get kids to proper reading levels by third grade, that dictates a lot of their future success in college and high school completion, and college participation. And then the play element in terms of creating safe places for kids to go enjoy sports, enjoy, the camaraderie of, their counterparts, be around coaches that are equipped to service them, equipment and programming as well. So that's what we're about. That's what we're doing. And between the pandemic and our food distribution programs that have now distributed meals to over 19 million meals across, Oakland and the greater Bay Area, to planting, we call them little libraries, but making reading and literacy fun for, especially kindergarten and third grade reading levels, and giving them age and culturally relevant books for them to read, and planting these little libraries that you can go up and just take a free book, bring it back if you want to. And we continue to load them with over, I think, 300,000 books this year across Oakland, refurbishing playgrounds and things like that. So it's a well-rounded effort of reaching the community where they are, reaching kids where they are, understanding that they feel, or making them feel loved, making them feel seen, cared for, and also providing programs for their families, because we're dealing with generations of trauma and systems that have not been designed to support the communities that we're going after. And so we're excited about the opportunity. We're 3 years in, and continue to grow. We have amazing community partners that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're trying to continue to amplify the need and the resources that need to go into these communities. And when you talk to certain families and teachers and kids that they see our Eat, Learn, Play bus pull up, and there's fresh produce and fresh books for them to participate in and take home, and understand that that we're here to help them, that those interactions mean the most, and they continue to inspire the work that we're doing. And very grateful that the community that has supported me and my family for the last 13 years, that we are in a position to be able to give back. So that's what Eat, Learn, Play is all about. And it's a life's mission and a life's work. And so to know the impact that we've had, in these short 3 years, it means a lot.
Not being in the Bay anymore, I'm sure, the whole community just really appreciates the support. And I think for a lot of people who want to give back, that's the dream, is to one day be able to do something like that. So that's amazing. Two more questions, two more little lengthier questions and a couple fun questions. I think talking to student athletes, we have a lot of student athletes across the country here today. How do you have any suggestions or pieces of advice that maybe we can take in terms of doing something little, especially just balancing with school and sports? Like, what are some little things that we can do, that can hopefully grow into something bigger in the long run?
I think each of you could answer like what you're passionate about and what area you want to influence, and to not be afraid to say, okay, you're balancing two full-time jobs in terms of being a student athlete. Like, you want to excel in the classroom and you want to excel on the court, and we all know what that takes to accomplish. But that's why I always go back to that, just saying run your own race, in terms of, if you have the ability to stretch yourself a little bit and say, okay, I'm committed to, supporting an organization that is already existing, that, you've made a connection with, and you say, I'm going to volunteer an hour, or I'm going to go, speak to this kid who I know can benefit from just, a sense of encouragement, or, whatever the case is, whatever the opportunity is. If you impact one life, you're doing something great. So don't feel like, when I talk about 19 million meals, that didn't happen overnight. That was something that was built on a consistent effort of trying to find some way to influence the community around me. I grew up in North Carolina. I used to volunteer at an after-school program across the street from Davidson called the Ada Jenkins Center. And I know one kid hopefully was influenced by something I said, or some, moment that I was present in their world and made an influence. Those series of events have now escalated to what Eat, Learn, Play is. And so you have to start somewhere. You have to be active. And even if you don't get that return right away, that instant gratification of, oh, this action led to this, like, don't be deflated by that, or don't feel like you have to have everything figured out. Just be active and be present, and be curious about ways that you can take, something that's passionate or near and dear to you, or something that you want to impact and influence, and just start small and continue to build from there. Because I know in our generation now, everybody sees the polished product of what social media tells you is, and what the narratives of these amazing organizations that seem like they just popped up overnight. That's not how it happened. So as student athletes now, you have an ability to influence, and you can do it in a very meaningful way, even if it's one person that you affect.
So thank you, Stefan. I am being cut off, so I would be here all day if I could. So thank you. But I have 3 fun questions, super quick. Then we can go along. What's your favorite city to visit on the road?
Probably New York City. Madison Square Garden's nice.
Yeah, it's a good place to play at, I'm sure. Favorite musical artist?
Ooh, of all time, Lupe Fiasco.
Got you. All right. Now, since I think a lot of people are joining and having pizza parties across America, so this one's kind of on cue. Favorite place to go get pizza?
Oh, that's such a great question. Probably. It was one right down the street from my house. It's called Amzini. I love it. It's top. It's go-to every single day.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Stefan. Hopefully I get to see you soon, and I think we all appreciate you. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody on here. Thank you, Issa, and the entire Stanford community. I appreciate it.
Stefan, Eason, thank you so much. The whole idea of changing the narrative of what it means to be an active and engaged athlete, Stefan, I think you do that every day, and I really appreciate it. I'm sure all the athletes did, that you talked about starting small. that really shrinking the change, and those habits build, and that if you can just change one other person, you're making a difference. And that's so much of what we are doing today. I will say, as a futurist, when I saw the NBA make the decision to turn the arenas into voting places, to me, that was one of the most extraordinary decisions I'd ever seen in terms of helping communities do something that had never been done before, right? Pandemic had never done before. And yet this massive national election to turn them into safe polling places. And not only that, to couple that with something you said around the narrative, around a commitment to changing how we talk about what's possible, to change our stories, the media and the partners that you've helped build, so that it's not just a single time, but it's really carrying forward. Thank you so much. I will also want to say that when you had a conversation with your family in 2020 about the kind of leader you were looking for in the president, it mirrored the exact class I was teaching at the time called Designing the President. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs because it can be so intimidating to look at this ballot and figure out, I don't know what these positions are. I don't know what I care about. But if you pause and you say, you are a hiring manager and you get to pick the kind of leader that you want representing your community, it changes everything. And you demonstrated with your wife that it's possible to have those conversations at the earliest ages. So thank you so much. And the last thing I will say is I'm going to make everybody jealous.
Hey, there we go.
It's now going to be required reading. I have a superpower. We could have renamed this whole event. I have a superpower. And I love that at the end of the day, the superpower is Hugh's heart. So I just want to say this is the most gorgeous book. I'm going to be making sure all of my students read it. I don't care what age. Stefan, thank you so much for all that you do, for how you show up every day. You really embody what this is all about. And we are so, so grateful.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm taking that energy with me. Thank you very much.
Well, we are thrilled. We'll